let's begin, as we rarely do in Cincinnati. And no, this isn't about their uniform that was leaked on Sunday, although they should be happy. We were talking about the Bengals on a slow Sunday in March. That never has happened in my recollection of the past 50 years of following football. Now we're talking about a franchise quarterback, a true franchise quarterback that they drafted last year, first overall, Joe Burrow. Here is Duke Tobin talking about the plan for building around the quarterback whose ACL is still in the process of being rehabbed to 100%.
When I look at our team, I'm excited. I think we've got one of the premier best young quarterbacks in the game, and we're going to do everything we can to build around him and give him the opportunity to really shine and show what he can do. And so it's going to start with him.
Absolutely, it's going to start with him. Look, it worked out well for the Bengals, although, Charean, I've said this a few times recently, and Bengals fans get upset about this.
I know.
They could have taken what the Dolphins were offering. They could have gone to number 5. They could have drafted Justin Herbert plus all the extra stuff, and they'd be in a better spot now than they are. But Joe Burrow is the real deal as well. They have to find a way to keep him healthy, and that begins with investing money and draft picks in improving the offensive line so he has time to set up and throw. That's how the injury happened. For as much as he runs, the injury happened because the pocket collapsed and he got hit low, and that was the end of his season.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Mike. They need offensive linemen. They need them bad, and they need receivers. Frankly, A.J. Green's gone, we know, and he didn't have a good year anyway. So he needs improved weapons, and he needs an improved offensive line. And that doesn't mean just using that 5th overall draft pick on an offensive lineman or a receiver. It means going out in free agency. And that was Joe Burrow's big thing before the Bengals drafted him is are you going to build a competitive team around me? We heard him say that over and over. And they did last season. They went out in free agency and did some things at free agency that improved them overall. They need to do more. They still need more people around him to make him a better quarterback. And they have the 6th most cap space right now, Mike. They need to spend that money, and they need to draft wisely, and this will be a good team in the future.
One thing the Bengals do far more often than the opposite, they trade down. They don't trade up, they trade down in the draft. And they may have an opportunity with that 5th pick, depending upon who's left at quarterback. And the thinking is that Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson will be gone 1-2. Then comes the Mac Jones pick. If Jones is on the board at 5, a great chance for the Bengals to take a step back, pick up some picks, do what they didn't do last year in sliding down and addressing more of their needs, more lottery tickets, more players, more people around Joe Burrow. And it's not going to be easy for them. We went back and forth last year, and I think you were Team AFC North. I was Team NFC West as to which division was better top to bottom. You could say going into 2021, if Burrow's healthy, the AFC North is the best division top to bottom, and it may be between the Bengals and the Steelers to see who's in 3rd place, who's in 4th place.
Yeah, and you look at the quarterbacks in that division, Mike, with Roethlisberger and, of course, Lamar Jackson, who won the MVP award a couple years ago, and Baker Mayfield. And this is a really good division. And I'm with you. I think it's probably the West right now, but we don't know how that's going to play out and what's going to happen with Russell Wilson and all those sorts of things. So they've got to get good. They've got to get better than what they were with more talent around Joe Burrow if they're going to contend in that division anytime in the next couple of years, because it's a really good division with really good teams. So you need more players around Joe Burrow. And frankly, Mike, we don't know how that ACL is going to affect him either. Normally it takes players a couple years. That second year after the ACL is normally better than the first year after the ACL, and he's going to be right on the edge of getting back for the start of the season. So we'll see what kind of year he has. But to me, this is a building year for the Bengals. They just need to build on what they did last year, take another step. I thought they took a step, take another step this year. I don't see them as a playoff team certainly this year, but they have a chance to take another step and let him get back and get that ACL right.
In a weird sort of way, if the ACL isn't 100%, maybe it forces him to stay within the pocket more often, to stay within himself, to get rid of the ball faster, make decisions faster, make his reads faster, and not be so, I don't want to say reckless, but more often than not, he was on the wrong side of reckless when it comes to the pounding he took. And he's not a big, thick guy, and I talked to him a couple of times about the hits he takes plenty of them, and he's fearless in that regard. Maybe if he has mobility that is limited in any way as he recovers from the torn ACL, he just gets rid of the ball faster, makes decisions faster, and positions himself better to avoid this kind of injury in the future, because he clearly needs to do that. It's not sustainable to take the pounding that he took last year. And I think we were also caught up in how well he was playing. You know, you don't want to wag your finger at a guy right out of the gates who is amazing and astounding us with his overall physical feats. But look, we say it about Jimmy Garoppolo all the time, and I think it's fair to say it about Joe Burrow. You have an obligation to the team to stay healthy, and that means avoid hits. It's basic science. The more hits you take, the greater the likelihood you're going to get injured. So reduce the number of hits, reduce the chance of getting injured. That's what he needs to learn from what happened last year.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Mike. That maybe this teaches him more to stay in the pocket with that ACL, especially early in the season. And he's capable of doing that. It's not like this guy needs to get outside the pocket to be successful. I mean, we know he can stay in the pocket and be successful. We saw it at LSU. We saw it last season. It would have been real interesting, Mike, if he had stayed healthy all the way through, because halfway through the season, we were talking about him as probably Offensive Rookie of the Year, and then Justin Herbert just took off. But I would have liked to have seen him stay healthy the whole year long and see how that Offensive Rookie of the Year race would have come down to the wire, because I think it would have. I think Joe Burrow would have stayed in that race, and the Bengals probably would have won at least a couple more games.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.